Hello, welcome to Squishy Vision. Bunch of days late. Long story short, I couldn't watch it midnight Saturday morning because I was showing solidarity to a pro-Palestine thing. And then during Saturday daytime, I was at as soon as I woke up, I went to a Palestine rally. Then I came home and I watched Doctor Who. And then I don't actually know what happened after that. I think I was probably just like tired, fell asleep. Seems to probably have been what maybe happened. Um, so that's probably what happened. Sunday I was LARPing, got back, fell asleep, and then I think pretty much every single evening, Monday, Tuesday evening, both the last two evenings. Actually, Monday evening I was watching Discovery because I didn't want to be spoiled, so I had to like watch Discovery. So yeah, I watched this on Saturday and really be able to react to it now. So I'm gonna give my thoughts now. Memory's gonna be a bit distant, but I don't think there's really like a terrible amount of stuff to go over. Um, Definitely, it's an episode that's going over a lot of people's heads. I know that because I'm seeing the comments on, say, like Facebook groups like Doctor Who Infinity and Doctor Who fans who actually like the program, which are the two ones. Everyone in TARDIS posting obviously gets it because they actually have media literacy. But a vast majority of the people in like the other Doctor Who groups who don't have media literacy, some of them are like, "Oh, I don't get why." What was her name? Linda. The heck was the woman's name? The woman didn't get why what was her name? Not Linda. Lindy. Yeah, okay, close enough. They're like, well, I don't know why Lindy like became bad at the end, and it's like she was always bad. It's 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 a simple episode. I haven't seen Black Mirror. A lot of comparisons to Black Mirror. Simple episode, and it's really not. I mean, it's. I feel like it's gonna get a lot of praise for being like a bold, cold look at racism, and it's nothing not novel. It's very much a Russell T Davies kind of penned. You know, it's a very it's surface level, but it's surface level examination of, oh god, people are commenting on my vertical video. Hello, Melissa Perry. Hello, Maxima. Hello, Oko567. Play Roblox. You're on the wrong channel. I do gaming on my other channel. I don't play Roblox either. Well, I've played it in the past, but hasn't really got my attention. Stop distracting me with your Roblox comments. I guess I should probably do my vertical videos more often during the daytime. Well, I say daytime, it's 11:30, so actually it's not terrible. Races me, yes. Okay. I guess I'm getting distracted. We're talking about Dot and Bubble, the latest episode of Doctor Who. You can tell how often I actually get people watching my videos that this is how surprising that people are engaging with my comments, engaging with my video. So yeah, it's interesting. It is subtle, but it's also not subtle. It's like, I think this is what's confusing a lot of people without media literacy, because it can be very easily just read as. But even then, that's not like people are focusing a lot on the racism of the episode, or the racism of the episode, or the explosion of racism rather. The episode itself isn't racist, but there's also a degree of classism in there, and obviously classism and racism are intersectional, so it's gonna you tackle one, you tackle the other, and it's inherently part of it. So I think, if you're not someone who's like thinking that way, you're just gonna be like, oh, they're just being snobby. But I think the ending is pretty oblique as far as, I mean, without being handholdy, pretty oblique. But it's still it's a Star Trek problem. It's the classic Star Trek problem. I still maintain like the reason why so many reactionaries are fine with pre-90s, I mean even to early 2000s Star Trek, is because it uses a lot of symbolism, like it primarily lies symbolism. The non-cynical reading of that is that it trusts its audience a bit more. I think honestly, it's also just a case of this is how we get things past the censors. Um, Star Trek nowadays isn't more progressive or more woke than pre 2000 Star Trek. It's just more oblique. And to be fair, it has to be because honestly, media literacy. I mean, well, it has to be because clearly the exploration of social issues in the previous Star Trek went over so many people's heads that can you blame them for doing things down? But also, on the other hand, what was the other hand? There was another thought that's just gone out of my mind. I know. Actually, I think that's pretty much it. I think it's changes. It's realized that you can't have that same subtle. You've got to be flat out telling people racism is bad, and then that blows people's minds. So clearly, it's the right way to do it. So this episode's very much classic Star Trek in that it relies on a lot of you can if you want to ignore the message, you can do it very easily. Is that a criticism? I don't know. It feels like I'm making a criticism, but actually, that's probably the correct way. That's how you tell a story, a good story. It's very simple. This is a story that like this is a short story. I was gonna say this is a short film concept a student can make for their film degree, and I feel like that's either me. I feel like I'm saying that as a criticism again, as if student film is somehow inferior and this is somehow inferior, and that's very unfair, and I shouldn't be making a comment, especially as someone who's made a big career out of doing student film. But I'm grasping at straws here. Let me regrab myself because clearly I went into this video without a coherent thought on my brain. It's shot very well. It's shot by the same director, Dylan Williams Thomas, a very Welsh name person, and Dylan's in there somewhere, who did 73 Yards. And 73 Yards was like directed very well. The cinematography was fantastic, but everything was like fantastic. It felt fresh, felt new. Well, not new. Like there's nothing particularly done in those episodes that's not been done in any other content, but the point I'm trying to lead to here is that there was definitely a style you could recognize that isn't commonplace in Doctor Who. Let's go with that kind of phrasing of what I'm trying to explain, and like that's clear here. There are a lot of shots which aren't commonplace in Doctor Who. It's the color palette is very pastel, but deliberately so. It gives it kind of a natural feel. No disservice to whichever university they filmed this at. I think like it was was it Southampton or something? Your student accommodation is very pastel. Sorry, not sorry. But fair, most student accommodation tends to be quite pastel, so that's not really on them as much. But like even with that kind of like there was a lot of like environmental storytelling, which is interesting for a episode where a lot of it is basically a shot that I'm imitating with I'm not using if you're new to my channel, and most of you clearly are, this isn't how I normally shoot my videos. I am much more further away from the screen than I am at the moment, but I decided to kind of make things a bit more bigger, at the expense of obviously quality of camera because it's a 1080 camera and I made it bigger so I could imitate the shot in the episode. This is how a lot of the episode is shot. So the director knew clearly, or the set designers knew, or the writer knew that a lot of the glimpses into the real world had to tell a lot of story, and it did that. We get a sense of this isn't a world that's particularly lived in because everyone lives in a whole dot and bubble. Speaking of dot and bubble, or bubble rather, there's I see a lot of like back and forth for whether or not this is an episode that's critiquing on social media, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that it is. It doesn't feel like me as a critique. So I think a lot of people have called it a critique of social media who miss it's actually a critique of social prejudice. Um, and I think it actually takes a much more nuanced view on social media that a lot of other critique of social media doesn't do. It's not the issue isn't the technology. I mean, I guess it kind of is, but it's I mean it is in the sense that it's taking a very easy and non-controversial route of AI algorithm bad, and as a computer scientist, I'm actually kind of like AI algorithm okay. It's not the technology; it's how you use it. Um, Sorry, I'm a very pro AI person. Uh, I'm one of the very few artists it seems who is. So I don't have any issue with AI. I have an issue with how AI is used, obviously, but that's the same with any kind of technology. That being said, I mean, there is a lot wrong with social media algorithms. So I think this is probably taken. I mean, really, the criticism here is absorbing yourself in an echo bubble. Like, but even then, I mean, I don't know. It's maybe something that needs to be re-examined. I'm not sure how carefully thought the social media aspect was, because it was if that was a focus, you could have done a lot more with it. Uh, I mean, none of the people she spoke to really did anything to reaffirm problematic views. Everyone was just kind of very robotic. If anything, it's more of an examination or more of a kind of a conceptualization of what is it, dead internet theory. The concept that um eventually the internet's going to be a bunch of people saying meaningless things bouncing off each other. But even then, it's not that because they're real people. So if there's a commentary on social media here, I think it is very kind of. I think that's the weakest part, but I don't also think that's the point of the episode. So that's fine. Very much is a case of. Here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. And here's the thing that I noticed in the previous episode as well. And I get this feeling more than I get. There's a moth in my room, and my kitten has like locked onto it, and she is the kind of cat who will go at I'm talking about you, go after the thing. So that moth gets anywhere near my computer, she's gonna project herself at it. So if anything goes wrong, she's why. But now she's just decided that she's gonna flop into my. Now she's just flopped onto my mouse mat and almost crushed my mouse. A lot of the episodes this season, I felt like part of a story. I don't know if that's fair or not. I don't want to come across as those people who are like every part of a plot, every world built, every character shown needs to have their full depth put on screen. No, I always maintain a story only needs to tell you what it needs to tell you to tell a story. Everything else that us nerds care about, that's what you can put into like expand material, behind the scenes stuff. We will gobble it up. That's fine. It doesn't need to be in the actual episode. I call out frequently people who criticize plot holes, which aren't plot holes. They're simply things that haven't been explained because they're not relevant to the story. And a lot of media literacy is this being like, I don't need everything explained to me because I can connect the dots. Dot and bubble, dots. But there's like a feeling where, like for example, I don't need to see what happens after this end of the episode. It's clearly signified that you take the Doctor's word for it. These people are going to go into the wild with absolutely no sense of, the reality of the situation because they've been locked in their bubble, and they're going to, as someone very poetically explains on the internet, die of dysentery. We don't need that explained. We don't need explained to us that the reason these people are bigoted against the Doctor is because the Doctor is now black presenting and they're racist. We don't need that explained to us. It's pretty apparent in the, white casting of everyone on screen. The way that Lindy speaks to a doctor compared to how she speaks to Ruby, and even though she speaks to Ruby the way she speaks to Ruby, because Ruby is very northern working class coded, and obviously Lindy is very kind of middle class to upper class coded, and even without an element, she clearly gives Ruby more time of the day than she gives the Doctor, and that's obviously because the Doctor is a black male and the Doctor is presenting as a black male and Ruby is a white woman. We don't need that explained to us. That you either get it or you don't. And you not getting it, having it explained to you is part of the point. And as arrogant as Russell T Davies is when he explains it in the behind the scenes content, which I've not actually seen yet because I'm not actually watching Unleashed at the moment, he's right in that respect. As someone has pointed out, the entire upper senior creative team of Doctor Who at the moment is all white, which is, and so it's kind of a bit rich for him to be like, why are people noticing how white predominant everything is? And I'm like, your writing team is literally white, which is always obviously going to be an issue. We don't know how to explain to us, but I don't know. But it just seems like I can't explain it. It is the episodes are 45 minutes long, but they feel much shorter compared to a lot of Moffat episodes, which are 4 or 5 minutes long, but felt like they were cramming too much in. This feels like we're expanding to this could have been 25 minutes, half an hour long as well. I get it's the same with 73 yards, which had a lot of build up and then a very quick resolution. I think there's a gap in between the scene where Ricky gets killed and they all arrive in that area where it feels like we're missing a bulge. It's always like we're missing a bunch of the third act. It seems to be a third act missing problem, and I think it's happened in the episode as well. I don't know, I can't explain it. Probably because it's been 4 days since I saw the episode, and so it's escaped my brain by now. It just feels like that. Ncuti Gatwa owns so much of the he's not in this much. I think I read somewhere that again that's a layover for him from him shooting Sex Education. So he was able to be in this more than 73 yards, but not as much as he will be in the episodes. But this his scene at the end was his first thing he shot, and it's a very good scene. It's a very intense scene. It's played with a lot of nuance and depth. And there's layers. There's a lot of how to work in this episode. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of good you can bring out. You can nitpick a lot of the way that Lindy acts. You can point out a lot of the ways that the Doctor has to change his behavior. It's comparisons have been made to Midnight, where the Doctor's usual kind of owning the scene doesn't work because he doesn't have all the power he thinks he normally does by his normal presence in the episode. So that's obviously part of it. I do like the design of the man eaters or man trappers, whatever they refer to in Unleashed. Just the idea of these very kind of they're not even that threatening. They're easy to avoid. You can outrun them. They're basically just giant slugs, but they're quite frightening. If I saw one of those in the street, I'd be I'm running away. And when you heard about the reveal that they were created specifically to kill people, it's oh well, a lot of the design kind of makes sense. Although, and again, this doesn't need to be explained, but there is a lot of why that if they were genetically created to do this, why that rather than a much more kind of powerful predator, or people have asked why couldn't the dots have just also, sorry, just real quick, for Death of Ricky September was dark. That was a very, very dark scene. That was actually probably one of the highlights. That's when I went, oh crap, we're doing this. And then it turned out to be like in the last 10 minutes of the episode. The character of Ricky September is very interesting. And it's pointed out that he's meant to be like the Doctor. He's meant to be, well, he's meant to be a Doctor substitute. But the fact that he's white and Indy listens to him rather than the Doctor who's presenting as black. And he's obviously very like basic white male coded, and you got like obviously the Doctor who isn't at the moment, is an element. People seem torn on whether or not Ricky September is like secretly. People are like, I want to defend Ricky September, but he's probably also a racist. I mean, he could very easily have been the only non-racist person in that colony. It is established that he doesn't connect to his bubble, so he could, you know. But I mean, again, I just don't think that's relevant. His function in the episode wasn't to challenge social prejudice, otherwise he would have. His point in the episode was to be the racist ideal of Doctor Who. Someone has just sent a comment into my vertical video saying Indian question mark. Are you asking me if I'm Indian, or are you offering me a takeaway? Like, use full sentence, so just type Indian question mark. That's not nice. Although I appreciate the review at least. What was I? Yeah, the death of Ricky September was dark. And pretty gory for Doctor Who. It's not often we get, like, it's a headshot on screen. I mean, it's obviously out of focus. It's nothing, it's me expecting a much more, you are Indian. No, I am not. No. My ethnicity is Pakistani. So yeah, the death of Ricky September, it's pretty gory for like, what's an Erebus? It sounds like a type of plane. Pretty dark. Eastern to what? I mean, I'm from West Yorkshire, so, which actually is strangely in the east part of England, so I guess that's technically true. That is actually, guys, it always amuses me how the west part of Yorkshire is actually fairly central in England. Because obviously Yorkshire's in the east, so the west of the east is the centre. But anyway, what was I saying before this random person started trying to comment on my appearance? Yeah, pretty gory. Like, I don't know if we've ever had someone be like headshot. I suppose Stephen Fry was headshot, wasn't he, in Spyfall? Yeah, Spyfall. I can't actually remember how that was shown on screen. I remember it was a jump scare at least. I wasn't expecting to see Stephen Fry shot in the head. As much as I dislike Stephen Fry, he was very much underused. And then part of me is like, well, I don't like Stephen Fry, so I'm glad he's kind of underused. On the other hand, as much as I don't like Stephen Fry, he is this iconic part of British culture. Why would you cast Stephen Fry and have him in such an underused role? But I mean, I also cast him as a sexist. So, I mean, you know, swings and roundabouts, really. Yeah, so I guess Stephen Fry was headshot. But like the cloud of blood behind Ricky September's, I keep almost saying Ricky Gervais. The cloud of blood behind Ricky September's head, and it was out of shot and it was very dark, so you can't really like see any gory details. But even that, for Doctor Who, it's pretty dark. I mean, it's historically a bloodless show. Even like New Who, like a lot of like renewals tend to like be less coy about gore. For example, Star Trek historically has been very, very kind of like sanitized in terms of physical violence, almost kind of like very stagey. Whereas the Star Trek in the last few years, in the last 7 years, I mean, especially Discovery and Picard. Well, actually, not all three of them. All three of them have like very gory things. Like Star Trek Discovery has pretty graphic body horror. Picard season 1 opens up with a very like graphic. One of the episodes opens up very graphically with someone's eye getting drilled out, and it's extremely gory. Strange New Worlds has pretty like gory things in terms of the victims of the gore, and it's probably the least gory out of the three, but it's still pretty bloody. Heck, I mean, even Lower Decks is only really getting off slightly here because it's 2D animation rather than visual effects, but some of the balance in there is pretty gory as well. It's pretty graphic for a cartoon. I'm talking more about Star Trek in this thing than I am talking about Doctor Who. I should probably save this for when I talk about Star Trek, because I'm going to do a reflection video on the last 7 years of Discovery, but whatever. So yeah, that was a pretty dark scene. I'm kind of envious of it. It's very much a betrayal of a character that I would write. I like writing betrayals like that. So the idea that, someone is prepared to wholeheartedly put their life on the line to save you, and you, with so little hesitation, are very willing to sell them out and betray them just to save your own skin, and have like literally no regrets. I mean, Lindy very much cements herself as an irredeemable character in that moment. And then we see the rest of them, and they're all like the same, and it's like, oh, you're just a bunch of bigots, you're a bunch of like self-serving bigots. I feel like we could have done more. I think you could have done more of the idea about making things more explicit. I'm not saying you need to be more explicit about the themes. I'm not saying you need to be more apparent about the themes. But I think having set the themes as a subtext, you could then play around a lot with it. I think we spent a lot of time being clever and subtle about the themes that we didn't really play around. That's okay. We've done it. We've logged on to my issue episode. Spent a lot of time in the episode being subtle about the themes and being clever about the themes that we weren't really executing very well. And that's where I think we're missing. So don't do anything about making things more clearer. Don't make it more obvious that they're bigots. Don't make it more obvious that it's white supremacist. Don't make it more obvious why they not listen to the Doctor. Don't make it, I mean, maybe make the social media criticism a bit more obvious. I don't know which kind of way you stand on that aspect. But okay, so these racists are bad. What does that mean? Like how, and I think the bridge that's missing is being able to like point that back to our own society. The real trick would have been through the episode portraying them in such a way that you could be like, oh, I know someone like that. I know people down the street who are like that. And like, it's so easy to make the bigots and the racists be middle class people. And there will be those who watch this episode who will see themselves as these caricatures. But we know that a big problem with this society is the working class, who are manipulated by the media into othering people of different colours and thinking about them as the enemy. And that's obviously that's the way that it goes. It's the power. The governments know the power lies in the working class, so they weaponize bigotry. They turn the working class against the working class because they know that they need that infighting to exist. And I feel like that maybe I'm now going to do it, and I'm going too deep. Anyway, I've been talking about this for 30 minutes now. This is more than half the 11th episode, so I think I've been rambling too long, and I don't think I've been really made a coherent point as much as I could have done. So I've kind of wasted this thing. But like I said, that's what happens when I react to an episode I haven't seen in 4 days after I've seen it. I'm going to be stretching out minor points, but I mean, I focused on a lot of like what the episode could have done, but like I think there's certainly a lot. I mean, the design of the monsters was so good, especially as we've seen from like leaked set photography that they were done practically. A lot was done with a minimal set design, but it was still like there's a brilliant amount of storytelling. Loads of people are praising Lindsay and rightly so. The actress who plays Lindsay and rightly so, because she does a really good job of portraying that character with, you know, the right, like, I mean, she basically is the episode lead character, and like adding those kind of elements in, so you generally do feel for her, and then you realize actually, no, she's like the monster of the episode. In fact, um, you know, pretty dark elements like the death of Ricky September, the dark elements like the fact that the home planet's all gone, that they're all going to die of dysentery, but the racist, you know, the end part with Shizugatwa, the fact that majority of them in this episode, some people are complaining about this. They should want to see more on-screen presence from Doctor and Ruby, as in like more interaction in real world, not just with the screen. I'm like, well, no, you're kind of missing the whole appeal of the episode. Well, not appeal, but like the unique aspect of the episode is that we're very much following almost a POV, or at least a reverse POV, or a lot of like kind of close perspective shots or scenes from Lindsay's perspective. And like we don't know anything, and you could watch you could actually watch this episode without knowing anything about Doctor Who really, and like share Lindsay's initial distrust of the Doctor and Ruby, if you didn't know who they were. I mean, obviously the episode's not coded to be like that because it assumes you do know who these people are because it's the middle episode of a season. But you could easily watch it and not know that. It's very much a Blink episode in that respect. And like Blink, the fact that we're interesting with the Doctor as this kind of abstract outside force that we have no previous knowledge of does actually add interesting elements. I think if we saw more of what the Doctor was doing backstage, it would remove some of that and remove some of the kind of different ways you could potentially view the episode. The Roomie's not commenting anymore, so I'm generally have no clue why they were trying to find out what my ethnicity was, which is a shame because I was genuinely curious to know where that forward's going to go. I do like the design of like the UI. I like how clever it is. Um, um, yeah, and I think that's pretty much my thoughts. There was another thought that kind of bubbled up and now it's gone, so I can't remember what that was. Next episode is, what are we on, Thursday? So that's gonna be in 48 hours. So I'll see you in about 48 hours for next one. I'm gonna go make food and I'm gonna watch Star Wars Acolyte, then do a reaction to Star Wars Acolyte, and then I'm probably going to bed because I probably need to at that point, which means that we're going to have to discover a reaction another time. Syllabi. Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in, especially all those random people who tuned into my vertical video and sent me such interesting engagement with a discussion topic such as Are You Indian and Please Play Roblox. To be fair, one person did comment a very misspelt did say racism. Well, they said racism me. I assume they misspelled racism. So I guess at least they'll listen to what I was saying. Okay. Good riddance. Bye-bye.